Lost Girl of Astor Street. It's a book about a girl who gets lost on a street. How? I don't know. Don't ask me. But anyways, we start with two girls, Lydia Levine and Piper Sale. A bit of backstory before we go on. This book takes place in the 1920s, back when alcohol was very illegal and there were big crime families. Piper's dad is a lawyer who defends criminals and has been bought by an Italian crime family. That's important later in the story. So basically, Piper and Lydia have been best friends since they were children and have been going to school together and living near each other forever. Alright, back to the story. We start off with them getting out of school. As they are waiting to get picked up, some dude is flirting with Piper. He seems like he'll be important later. So then they get picked up by Lydia's driver, Matthew, who Lydia is madly in love with. They get driven back to Piper's house and boom, Piper's other old friend, Walter, is back from California. So he and Piper take a walk, and he basically tells Piper that he has a girlfriend. She's super happy for him, and then they find Lydia on the ground. She was having a seizure. Walter and Piper rushed her to Lydia's house, and the second they get there, Lydia is taken by her mother and they are shooed out. Then Piper explains that Lydia has seizures and her dad wants them to keep it on the down low, and that not even Lydia knows and just thinks she's having fainting spells. So fast forward a bit, and Piper and Lydia find out that Lydia's dad is sending her to the Mayo Clinic up in Rochester, Minnesota. She thinks that this will cause Matthew to not have feelings for her, so she decides to go tell him. Later that evening, Piper gets a call from Lydia's dad asking if she's seen her. The next day, Lydia isn't at school. Wonder what that could mean. At the end of the day, a cop car pulls up to the school and a detective and his partner come up and start questioning Piper. And Piper seems to be confused, so the detective, whose name is Mariano Cassano, explains that Lydia went missing last night. Piper is shocked by this news and goes home. She decides to write a lot of notes about anyone she was suspicious of to give to the detective to help. Even after this, she still wants to help more, so after a walk with the detective, she goes to visit the Barrows house, because Lydia was gonna go and babysit their kid. When she's there, Mr. Barrow comes in and tells her to leave and never come back. So she leaves, but she will end up coming back. After this, she hears about a story where a kidnapped girl escaped and used a telephone at a lunchroom to call for help, so Piper decides to go check it out, and she lets the detective know in case she also goes missing. The detective tells her he's coming with her and to meet him outside the school. They meet up and she goes to talk to the owner of the lunchroom. He says he hasn't seen anything but will call them if he does. On their way back to the train station, they find a dog and take him home. Piper names him Sidekick because why not? After a few days, they find Lydia's body in a river and she's dead. Piper is in despair and has nightmares about Lydia constantly. About a week after the funeral, Detective Mariano takes her on a date, which means they're dating. After a while, her dad gets married to Jane, who Piper disagrees with. And at the wedding, Piper finds out that Mariano is part of the crime family her dad helps, and she gets mad at him. She keeps her distance until she needs help while helping her friend Emma investigate her boyfriend, so that kind of fixes their relationship. Mariano also explains that he's an outcast in his family for not taking part in the family business. A few days later, Piper is at Emma's house, and she realizes through Emma's older brother that the reporter Piper's brother has been dating is lying about who she is. So she calls the newspaper she claims to work at, and they confirm that she's not who she says she is. The problem is that the reporter, who we will refer to as Alana, overheard this conversation and kidnaps Piper. She also ends up shooting Emma, who came to drop something off, but in the end Emma is okay. Alana takes Piper somewhere she doesn't know and questions her about Matthew's whereabouts, because apparently he killed her husband. All Piper knows is that Matthew ran away shortly after Lydia died and left her a letter explaining that he was part of the Finnegans, who were another crime family. Of course Alana doesn't believe her, and through this interrogation we find out that Alana kidnapped Lydia, who then had a seizure and choked on her own vomit, and Alana disposed of her body in the river. After Piper finds all this out, somehow Detective Mariano shows up and rescues Piper. She's taken to the hospital, and Alana is arrested for kidnapping Piper and killing Lydia. All in all, this was a good book. The beginning was a bit slow, and the ending was rushed, but there was a lot of character development, and I enjoyed watching the characters grow while also solving the mystery. I give this book an 7.75 out of 10.